Our guest today is Commissioner of the Chicago Department of Transportation. She was appointed by Mayor Emanuel just over 2 years ago. Our guest today has led the city's key transportation initiatives, including the following. Number one, an unprecedented amount of street repair and resurfacing. Two, big capital investments, such as the Chicago River Walk, the Loop Link, construction of the 606, the Bloomingdale Trail, the Navy Pier flyover, and two new CTA stations. She is a Chicago native who earned her bachelor's degree from Brown University and her law and MBA from Northwestern University. And she's so smart that she brought her husband with her today. And he is even smarter by being here. Ben Siegel. Ben, why don't you wave to all your City Club friends? Right? And then tonight, when you're watching this on video, your 2.5-year-old child, Phoebe, can also see what you do all day long. Ladies and gentlemen, Commissioner Rebekah Scheinfeld.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Jay. It's an honor to be here today. Thank you for inviting both of us. It's always a pleasure to be here at City Club, and it's great to be back again. The work we do at the Chicago Department of Transportation is made possible by the great professional team that I work with. And we work closely with many other city departments, all in partnership with professional services firms and construction services firms, as well as advocacy organizations, many of whom are in the audience today. I'd like to ask members of my CDOT team that are here, I know there are several people here, to please stand and be recognized. And I want to thank them. And I also appreciate my family being here today. CDOT has been very busy these last 5 years carrying out the vision that Mayor Emanuel brought to City Hall, which is simple but critical to ensure that Chicago has a 21st century transportation system. As part of the mayor's commitment to building a new Chicago, CDOT has made $2.5 billion in infrastructure investments in the last 5 years in our roads, bridges, transit system, and public spaces, creating an estimated more than 10,000 jobs and creating lasting improvements for Chicagoans that we experience daily. We are working to provide safe, affordable, innovative, and efficient transportation options that are also sustainable for the long term. These investments improve the quality of life for Chicago residents and lay the foundation for continued economic growth. Earlier this week, the mayor built further on his vision of building a new Chicago when he laid out a bold plan for investing in parks and open space called Building on Burnham. The goal is to bring the spirit and energy of Burnham's plan to every resident of Chicago, on the lakefront, the river, and all across the city where Chicagoans live, work, and play. CDOT plays a big role in advancing these goals, building many of the signature projects of this administration, like the 606, the Riverwalk, and along the lakefront at Fullerton, where just yesterday, the mayor cut the ribbon on 6 new acres of parkland and shoreline revetment. I'm very excited to share highlights of these accomplishments and ambitious plans with you today. Before we get into the larger, more transformative projects, I'd like to touch on CDOT's everyday services to the people of Chicago. Our work in the neighborhoods is actually the heart of our mission. The city and utilities together have repaved more than a quarter of the city streets since the mayor took office, and we are on pace to repave nearly half of the city streets by the end of the second term. This is making a real difference throughout the city, improving driving conditions for residents and businesses, and significantly reducing the occurrence of those dreaded potholes. We've also made a focused effort in the last year, in particular, to improve conditions under the hundreds of viaducts across this city. Too often, viaducts divide neighborhoods and make people feel unsafe when they are degraded or poorly lit. In 2015 alone, we upgraded 377 viaducts across the city, including an innovative partnership with the Department of Family and Support Services' One Summer Youth Jobs program, through which young adults painted viaducts, and we'll be repeating that program again this summer. As always, we continue to fulfill tens of thousands of requests for service each year for streetlight repair, traffic signal outages, and signage. These day-to-day maintenance and local infrastructure investments are critical for our residents and local businesses, and we're proud to deliver results every day for Chicagoans. The cornerstone of all of CDOT's investments, large and small, is safety. Safety for all users of the public way, of all ages and all abilities. This means pedestrians, parents pushing strollers, people in wheelchairs, people riding bikes, transit riders, and motorists. While we have seen a 40% reduction in traffic crashes resulting in injury or fatality in Chicago over the last 10 years, the numbers still remain unacceptably high. There are approximately 80,000 traffic crashes a year in Chicago, killing about 125 people. That means almost every 30 minutes, someone is killed or seriously injured from a traffic crash. These statistics are why we have made a commitment to Vision Zero, the international movement to eliminate all traffic fatalities and serious injuries, through engineering our streets and vehicle fleets to prioritize safety, enforcing against dangerous roadway behavior, education and outreach, and data collection to support an evidence-based approach to all of these efforts. We are doing this in partnership with many city departments, most notably the Department of Public Health and the police. And earlier this year, Chicago was excited to join with other cities across the nation as part of the Vision Zero Focus Cities program to share and learn best practices to advance these goals. One of the major behavioral causes of traffic crashes is speeding. This is especially true when a crash involves our most vulnerable roadway users, pedestrians. Approximately 3,000 pedestrians are involved in crashes each year. A person hit by a car going 40 miles per hour only has a 20% chance of survival, while the odds increase to 90% survival if that car is going only 20 miles per hour. And there is some good news on this front. The latest traffic safety data shows injury crashes are declining at a faster rate in areas with automated speed enforcement cameras as compared to the rest of the city. Specifically in areas with cameras, crashes that cause injury or fatality are down 18% compared to just a 4% reduction citywide. This is a trend that we are closely watching. In addition to our enforcement efforts, we also continue our wide-ranging outreach and education efforts carried out by our ambassadors, who visit schools, seniors, block clubs, and other events throughout the year and all across the city. And this year, we reached over 110,000 people. With that background, let's jump into a review of some of our major projects. We are pleased to continue to partner with the CTA on many initiatives for both the bus and the rail systems. Whether it's building new train stations or working with the CTA to improve the efficiency of bus operations through transit signal priority technology, one of our most important jobs is to support the CTA as it moves approximately 1.6 million people around Chicago every day. Supporting mass transit is critical to addressing our congestion issues in this city. In the last 5 years, CDOT has built 2 new elevated stations for neighborhoods that previously did not have train service. The Morgan Street Station on the green and pink lines in the West Loop Fulton Market area was the first new CTA elevated station to open in Chicago in nearly 2 decades when we completed it in 2012. And last year, in 2015, we opened the new CTA Green Line station at Cermak, serving Motor Row, Chinatown, and McCormick Place. Also last year, we completed the restoration of the Clark and Division station on the Red Line, making it a fully ADA accessible subway station with a new entrance at LaSalle increasing capacity and making it more inviting for customers. These new and rebuilt stations not only boost CTA ridership, but are a catalyst for economic development in the surrounding areas and support the city's policy goals of encouraging transit-oriented development. Looking forward, we are well underway with the construction of a new elevated station at Washington and Wabash on the east side of the loop. Opening in early 2017, the station replaces two 100-year-old elevated stations at Madison and Randolph. And this will be a fully accessible, modern facility with a stunning architectural design. It will serve as a new gateway to Millennium Park and other attractions on the east side of the loop, and encourage even more investment and job growth in these older sections of the central business district. Great transit options are especially important downtown, where there are 500,000 jobs and 60% of commuters rely on mass transit every day to get there. Investments in transit are about getting people to their jobs faster in the morning and getting them home to their families faster at night. But it's also about serving students, seniors, shoppers, and tourists. Connecting the east and the west sides of the Loop Link is a signature project for this administration. About a year ago, when I was first here at City Club, we were just starting construction, and we are really excited to have completed the majority of the project already, with improvements on Clinton, Washington, and Madison opening last year. Through innovative design, we are providing real alternatives to congestion in the loop by prioritizing transit on these corridors, where almost half the people in vehicles are on the bus. The project also includes benefits for pedestrians, bike riders, and motorists, with shortened crosswalks, protected bike lanes, and more dedicated turn arrows. Better separation of buses, vehicles, bikes, and pedestrians in this dense part of the loop also improves safety for all by reducing conflicts. Tens of thousands of CTA bus customers on the 6 routes that use this corridor each day now benefit from faster, more reliable bus service, thanks to red bus-only lanes and early traffic signals for buses at key intersections. 8 modern bus boarding stations along Washington and Madison feature large canopies for improved weather protection, raised platforms for easier and faster boarding, CTA bus tracker screens, and more seating. These buses are coming from all corners of the city, and the improved service downtown also means improved service reliability for customers along the entire routes throughout the city as well. This year, we will be completing the remaining portions of the project with improvements on Canal and Randolph Streets. We are closely monitoring traffic along these corridors, and we are pleased to see steady improvement in the traffic flow as all users are becoming accustomed to the new configuration. Moving to the West Loop, the Union Station Transit Center at the west end of the Loop Link corridor is well into construction and will open late this summer. This off-street CTA bus facility will include a new accessible underground connection to the existing Amtrak pedway into Union Station. The facility will improve capacity for the large number of buses that serve the busiest railroad terminal in Chicago, while relieving the serious street congestion surrounding Union Station by getting those buses off of the curb. And we are also focused on a much larger effort with Amtrak and Metra to redevelop Chicago Union Station as a vibrant transportation hub that also anchors a revitalized mixed-use district. As the mayor has said, Union Station has been punching well below its weight class for decades, and now is the time to realize the full potential of this asset as a major transportation center that has the capacity to handle growing ridership, all supporting access to jobs and economic development. It's not only our transit facilities that need modernization. CDOT is working to reconfigure outdated roadway infrastructure to address safety and modern needs for the next generation. A prime example of this type of work is the project now underway at Damon, Elston, and Fullerton, scheduled for substantial completion by the end of this year. The project is realigning and reconstructing Elston Avenue, where it crosses both Damon and Fullerton, to improve safety and travel times at what historically has been one of the city's most congested and dangerous intersections. Both this project at Damon Nelson Fullerton and the next one showcased, Western Avenue at Belmont, create new opportunities for community growth. By removing the viaduct along Western over Belmont and Clybourne and rebuilding the intersection at grade, we are working to reestablish the fabric of the neighborhood to spur investment while improving safety. This is the third viaduct dating from the early 1960s that we have taken down in the city and replaced with a modern at-grade intersection. Those old viaducts reflect an outdated view of transportation planning that focused exclusively on moving cars through the city more quickly, at the expense of all other considerations for those neighborhoods and the people moving through those intersections. With modern technology, we can achieve the same capacity of vehicle throughput with an at-grade intersection, and so we're working to make that happen. These pictures show our progress. Just 2 weeks ago, we demolished most of the viaduct over just one weekend. Another major roadway improvement underway that supports community growth is the Wells-Wentworth connector that will better connect the South Loop and Chinatown along the Wells-Wentworth alignment from Roosevelt to Cermak. Construction of the first phase is scheduled to start this summer and will improve access to Pingtong Park. Phase 2 will realign Wentworth to eliminate the current dogleg intersection where it crosses Cermak, improving safety for both motorists and pedestrians. And all across the city, we are also rebuilding major arterial streets that serve as the backbone for neighborhoods and critical transportation corridors. We are progressing through multi-phase reconstructions of Milwaukee, Grand, and Lake Street. These new streets improve the entire right-of-way with new sidewalks, lighting, signals, paving, and drainage, and in some cases also improve and increase vertical clearance under viaducts to create a safer, more modern design. We will begin construction this year on the next section of Milwaukee Avenue improvements between Addison and Belmont, and we will also advance planning for the segment from Belmont to Kedzie, which includes a reassessment of the Logan Square traffic circle to improve safety and open space in the heart of this community, which will involve significant community outreach. Late this year, we'll also plan to start construction of the reconstruction of Lake Street between Damon and Ashland and Grand Avenue between Chicago and Pulaski. And looking further into the future, we have the big kahuna of Arterioles, North Lakeshore Drive. Long-term planning for redesign of the north section of the drive from Grand to Hollywood has been underway in cooperation with IDOT since 2013. Our planning will be ongoing in 2016 as we continue an extensive public engagement process. This is a big opportunity to shape Chicagoans' lives for generations to come. Now going down to a smaller scale, thinking about the ways we can be using our public way beyond those more traditional roadway designs. About 25% of all the land area in Chicago is comprised of public way. We are thinking carefully about how we design that public way, so it isn't just about moving people more quickly through it, but also developing spaces for people within that right-of-way. The Make Way for People program uses placemaking to support initiatives that are innovative uses of the city's streets, using streets, parking places, alleys, and other public spaces to create centers for community and local business. In 2015, we completed the city's first People Street in partnership with the Lakeview Chamber of Commerce, re-envisioning the intersection of Wellington, Lincoln, and Southport, now known as the Lincoln Hub. This is a great example of how we can reclaim our public way, making it safer for pedestrians and bicyclists, calming traffic quickly and inexpensively through creative use of paint and bollards. In fact, the project also recently won an award from the Illinois chapter of the Congress for the New Urbanism, and we hear from residents that they now feel safer crossing at this intersection, which they previously avoided. In 2015, we also launched the newest element of the Make Way for People program, which is our People Plazas. It's another private-public partnership, this one with Latent Design Corporation, which is responsible for planning events and installations all across the city in underutilized public spaces, plaza areas. Activating these spaces is a catalyst for community connectivity, local entrepreneurship, and civic innovation. And as you can see here, it's about having fun too, whether it's blowing bubbles at Woodard Plaza, providing short-term pop-up retail opportunities, or bringing dance and theater programming to the community. In neighborhoods across the city, CDOT is also undertaking streetscape projects to support local business corridors. In the last 5 years, we have completed 32 streetscape and public plaza improvements, and we have another 17 underway. A signature project opening late this summer is the new shared street design for Argyle Street between Broadway and Sheridan. The new curbless design uses pavers to create a plaza-like environment that prioritizes pedestrian movements and utilizes innovative stormwater management to reduce flooding. This design will create more outdoor spaces for the many restaurants and businesses on this corridor and spur street life, building on Argyle's existing use for night markets and Chinese New Year celebrations. The new format will slow traffic and encourage critical eye contact between pedestrians, bicyclists, and drivers as they move through the space. Another new streetscape project beginning construction this year is the first phase of the Fulton Market streetscape between Halsted and Carpenter. Last year, we completed a new gateway for the Fulton Market area that highlights the creativity that is driving the transformation of this neighborhood from a warehouse district into a jobs incubator. The streetscape will further support these investments with a design that evokes historical commercial elements, including cobblestones and a curbless design to support loading, while also bringing the street up to modern standards to improve safety for pedestrians and more outdoor seating areas to encourage street life. And I'd like to recognize my colleague, Commissioner David Reifman of Planning and Development, for all his partnership on this project. And Alderman Walter Burnett, in whose ward this is. This is a great and exciting project. Such pedestrian-focused projects are good examples of how we are prioritizing active transportation options for Chicagoans. The proportion of people walking, biking, or using mass transit to get to work each day, or telecommuting, is growing in Chicago. And that non-motorized mode share is now more than 40%. Biking is one of the fastest growing mode shares that we have. And under Mayor Emanuel, Chicago has made tremendous progress becoming a more bicycle-friendly city. We went from being ranked by Bicycling Magazine as 10th in the country in 2010 to number 2 just 4 years later in 2014, and we're not done yet. Last year, we surpassed the mayor's goal of installing 100 miles of protected bike lanes in his first 4 years of office. In addition, the Clybourne protected bike lane, which was built by IDOT, and the Clinton protected bike lane, as part of the Loop Link, were named 2 of the country's 10 best protected bike lanes in 2015. Over the next 3 years, CDOT will continue to strengthen and improve connectivity of our existing bikeway network, building a network of over 50 miles of what we're calling better bike lanes. This includes new off-street connections, upgrading existing protected lanes with better designs, new neighborhood greenways, and more protected bike lanes, and making improvements at key intersections. The goal is to create low-stress bikeways designed so that all Chicagoans, regardless of age or ability, can feel safe biking. Divvy is also an important part of the biking success story here in Chicago. Last year, we undertook our first major expansion, going from 300 to 475 stations citywide, and that made us the largest bike share system in terms of geographic area in the whole country. Another expansion this year will add another 100 stations to the system, moving the system further southwest and southwest. We're going west all the way into Oak Park and north to Evanston in partnership with funding from Evanston and Oak Park. As the mayor outlined in his speech on Tuesday, we are thinking ambitiously about how to build on Burnham's legacy, and we are extending the spirit and benefits of Burnham's original plan to every resident of Chicago. Under Mayor Emanuel, over the last 5 years, we have been actively reimagining our old infrastructure to remake the city, connecting our communities and enhancing our quality of life. You can see this in the 606 and Bloomingdale Trail. It's a shining example of how the city can work with community leaders to repurpose old infrastructure, in this case, an abandoned rail line, into a new park space that also serves as an active transportation corridor. Residents of Logan Square, Bucktown, Wicker Park, and Humboldt Park had been advocating for this project for decades. The mayor embraced their vision, and CDOT worked with the Trust for Public Land and the Park District to make the vision a reality. You can also see this trend with the West Ridge Nature Preserve, a 20-acre wooded park and nature trail that we opened last year that has been carved out of an unused portion of Rose Hill Cemetery, thanks to the advocacy of the community. Again, repurposing these underutilized spaces for active community use. The mayor's bold vision for building on Burnham has a special emphasis on ensuring that Chicagoans have access to recreational opportunities along the Chicago River and Lakefront. Last year, we were very excited to open the first phase of the new Chicago Riverwalk from State to LaSalle Streets. We took a part of the river that had been overlooked and cut off from the public and opened it up for people to enjoy. We owe thanks to the Friends of the Chicago River who worked for decades to make this a reality. And you can also see work going on now for the latest phase that extends from LaSalle to Lake Streets, which will be opening in the fall of this year, and we'll be completing our vision for a continuous path all the way from the lakefront to Lake Street along the south side of the river. On the north branch of the river, CDOT has 3 new bike and pedestrian bridges in the pipeline. The Riverview Bridge, which will be the longest pedestrian river bridge in the city, will cross the river underneath the bridge at Addison, connecting the existing trails in Clark Park to the south with the trails at California Park to the north. Future improvements to the Irving Park Road Bridge will also include an underpass for pedestrians and bicyclists that connect California Park on the south to Horner Park on the north. The completion of these 2 projects at Addison and Irving will result in a 1.5-mile continuous trail along the river from Belmont to Montrose. And finally, further north, the Lincoln Village Bridge will provide access across the North Shore Channel at Hood Avenue between Peterson and Granville, creating the final link for a continuous multi-use trail connecting 4 municipalities along the North Shore Channel. Closer to the south branch of the river, this past Sunday, the mayor announced plans to realize the vision of the Paseo developed by residents of Pilsen and Little Village. This exciting Rails to Trails project along a largely abandoned at-grade railway will provide a 4-mile pathway for pedestrians and bicyclists and feature gathering spaces throughout, including gardens and public art that celebrates Latino culture. Now moving back to the lakefront, just yesterday, we joined the mayor and Senator Durbin to open an entirely new section of parkland at Fullerton. As part of our shoreline protection efforts, CDOT built this project in partnership with the Chicago Park District and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. We created 6 new acres of parkland while stabilizing the shoreline and protecting Lakeshore Drive and Fullerton Avenue. This project also includes new separated bicycle and pedestrian paths, relieving a previously heavily congested portion of the lakefront trail. Further south, the Navy Pier flyover is taking shape. The first section is under construction and will be open in 2017, and the final section will be completed by the end of 2018. The flyover will be a game changer for the city's lakefront, connecting 2 halves of the lakefront trail to create an uninterrupted 18-mile ribbon along the lake. When it's complete, people will no longer have to cross 2 busy streets below Lakeshore Drive at Illinois and Grand while they are enjoying Chicago's beautiful lakefront. And finally, I'd like to talk about the improvements in access to the lakefront that we are making on the south side. As Mayor Emanuel noted, despite Burnham's grand plan for the lakefront to be the city's front yard, some of our communities could see this beautiful front yard, but had trouble actually getting to it. Between 31st and 47th Streets, there were just 2 pedestrian bridges crossing the railroad tracks and Lakeshore Drive. And both of these were older structures that had stairs, not viable options for parents with strollers, people using wheelchairs, or many bicyclists. At the direction of Mayor Emanuel, CDOT has been working hard to make the city's front yard easily accessible to the children and families and all the residents of the greater Bronzeville and Kenwood areas. The 35th Street pedestrian bridge that is now under construction is one of 5 new or rebuilt bridges that will improve access to the lakefront in these areas. All the pedestrian bridges will be fully ADA accessible, that are ramp structures that will accommodate bicycles, wheelchairs, and emergency vehicles as well. The striking new suspension bridge at 35th Street will open late this summer. And construction is planned to start this year on an entirely new crossing pedestrian bridge at 41st Street. This rendering of the new bridge at 41st shows the stunning architectural vision winding across Lakeshore Drive. And in addition, by 2018, we will have replaced the old pedestrian bridge at 43rd Street with a new bridge that mirrors the design of the one at 41st and also creates improved park space on either end. And by 2018, we will also reconstruct 2 vehicular bridges that cross the Metro tracks at 31st Street and Oakwood. The great work we've been doing and have underway all across the city is really a testament to Mayor Emanuel's vision and commitment to making the kinds of investments that improve quality of life and spur economic development for Chicagoans. This week, we heard the mayor renew his commitment to the original plan for Chicago, crafted by Daniel Burnham, that made Chicago such a beautiful and thriving city. He spelled out how it will guide us in this new century as we bring the spirit and benefits of Burnham's plan to every resident of Chicago. At CDOT, we take that vision to heart, and we look forward to your continued collaboration and partnerships as we work to make these plans a reality. Thank you for your interest and attention. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right. This a real name? Baird Bream?
Yes.
Gotcha. Never know at the City Club. The Bronner Group. She's not here today. How can CDOT build on the loop link design components to improve multimodal mobility throughout the loop and beyond?
Thanks for the question. Loop Link is a great example of how we can think differently and how we are configuring our major thoroughfares to support mass transit. In partnership with the CTA, we have a number of planning studies underway to look at other types of roadway designs throughout the city to encourage the movement of buses and potentially other new mass transit options. For example, we've had a study underway in River North, Streeterville, because of all the traffic congestion there, and we're looking at how to improve bus movement and higher capacity options. Similarly, we're looking at the 18th Street and Cermak corridors as options as we see increasing congestion on the South Loop.
Okay. Ashvin Ladd, member of the City Club. Where are you, Ashvin? What are you guys? Monopolizing the questions. Do you have any data regarding a decrease of accidents where stop for pedestrian signs have been placed? And why don't more crosswalks have these signs?
I think these have been a great success. Unfortunately, how often they get hit by cars is a testament to the fact that they're sorely needed. They are intended to highlight changes and strengthening of state law that, and I will take this opportunity to remind all of you, that pedestrians have the right of way in the crosswalk, and you should stop for them, even if it's not at a signalized intersection. That is the law, and those in-road stop for pedestrian signs are there to remind us of that. We are very pleased that aldermen throughout the city have supported our efforts to install more of those signs. Those are done through our local infrastructure investments through the Aldermanic Menu Program, and we appreciate the partnership. It's a relatively low-cost way to bring attention to the safety issue and to improve pedestrian crossing safety.
We have 2 questions dealing with a topic that's very familiar to this club, bicycles. You may remember when we had the previous fellow who, some guy read a poem charging the bike brigade. I don't know who wrote that poem. I don't know where he is today, but here we go. You ready, Rebecca?
Here we go.
All right. Mike Pina, where are you? Pina, where are you, Mike? Cowards, there you are, okay. The city oh, this is a little,
Okay.
this is a little tang to it. The city requires pet owners to purchase permits. Why don't adults have to get permits for bikes? Shouldn't bike owners help support the maintenance of their special lanes? I did not write this question. Let the record, I told you. I'll save the other one.
Well, just like we encourage pet owners to register and tag their dogs, so if they get lost, we can help you recover them. We encourage everybody who's riding a bike to also register their bike at a lot of our outreach events through the Chicago Police Department. I'll say, as I noted in the speech, bicycling is one of the fastest growing mode shares in the city. It's not just about people who are using it to get to work, but it's also about people making short trips within their communities. Divvy is a great testament to that. And we are seeing a lot of complements between Divvy and our mass transit system through the CTA to get people to their destinations without having to rely on cars. And in fact, the Divvy system and the advertising we had from that, those revenues are going to support our efforts to improve bike facilities and education and outreach around biking. So it is all being doubling back those efforts so that we can continue to build out a bicycle network and provide facilities that make bicycling a real safe, convenient option for people no matter where they live in the city.
All right, good answer. Round two. Edward Hoffman, where are you? There he is in the back. Ready? Look how printed out this is. Well over half of all the bicycle riders in Chicago are riding bikes without headlights or rear reflectors at night, as required by city and state law. Is that true? I don't know. Should be true. Other than educational programs, which do not appear to be working, how would you... No more bike questions after this. How would you suggest we prevent the potentially fatal accidents that are bound to occur when these riders can't be seen at night?
Bike safety is a very important issue. As I noted before, bicyclists are also dying in the city, and it takes both bicyclists and pedestrians and motorists to improve the problem. So through our education and outreach, we do a lot in terms of educating people about the need to wear lights and reflectors. We also give out a lot of free lights and flashers that people can clip on so that they're more visible at night. But it takes both sides. So when you're biking, it's your responsibility to obey traffic laws. When you're walking, it's also your responsibility to obey traffic laws and not stand in the bike lane where you could be hit like you could be hit in the roadway. And for motorists, when you're opening the door, look and to see if there's a bicyclist coming so you don't door someone and seriously injure them. Or when you're going to be making a turn, look in your rearview mirror to make sure there's no bicyclist or pedestrian there. So I would say bicycling is something that is growing. It's important that we get it right and make it safe for all modes in the city, because it's not just about what's happening to the bicyclists, but it's about the intersection of bicyclists with everybody else in the roadway. And like I said, we need to give people safe, efficient, affordable options in this city, and bicycling should be one of them. Okay,
that's it. No more bike, please. We'll have another session on bikes, don't worry. Come here. I have one more question. No one has their hand up, so this will be your farewell question. It's another, not about bikes. Donald Scott, where are you, Donald? Okay. What are the plans for scattered crosswalks downtown?
I think he's referring to the pedestrian scramble that we have at State and Jackson. That's a great experiment that we've been monitoring, and it's also been used effectively in other municipalities. I actually get a lot of requests, why can't we see more of that? We think it's been successful there. It takes the right type of traffic environment where you have more pedestrians in volume than you actually have in terms of vehicle movements. And that's a great example there of a very congested space by DePaul and all the other shopping there where you have a really high volume of pedestrians. So we continue to look for other opportunities to do that, and we're excited by people's support for the program.
What's that called again?
a pedestrian scramble or a Barnes dance. I think Mr. Barnes.
Okay, how
Was
about a
the
round of applause
engineer.
for Rebecca?